Hey there, let's start with the kit breakdown for Lacrimosa. On her basic attacks, you're gonna have a melee form and you're gonna have a ranged form. In the melee form, you wanna use all 5 basic attacks. And in the ranged form, which you can swap to by pressing G, you only wanna use the 4 first attacks. And then you wanna dodge cancel and repeat the 4 first attacks, because the 5th attack has way too long animation and it's not worth doing. The multipliers are slightly different on both attacks, but overall it should be roughly the same damage, but range is a bit better. You can also hold attack to turn into a bat and fly for exploration. She also has a debuff, which is called Nightmare, which adds a dot on the target that deals damage over time to the target, and you can have up to 10 stacks and it lasts for 3 seconds. Let's get into her skill. Her skill just does damage and that's all there is to it, besides a little caveat, which is you can copy an anomaly. By holding attack, you can copy an anomaly. And the 2 best anomalies to copies are gonna be Tomato Devil and the Tome Boss. I will be showing them here. This is the Tome Boss and that's the Tomato Devil. Tomato Devil for single target and Tome Boss for AoE. And you always want to swap cancel out of your skill, as the animation is really long for the anomaly one. Let's get into the ultimate. You're gonna have one for ranged and one for melee. The melee one is gonna be a bunch of trucks. This does less damage on low crit rate than the ranged one, because you have to crit on every truck, while the ranged one is mostly just a big car, so you only have to crit on the last hit to do a lot of damage. Then we have her support skill, you just swap in and do damage. Then we have the first passive, which is useless. You just do extra damage on Discord Esper cycle. Then we have the second passive, which is really good. It's gonna let you, once you use your skill, you can auto 5 times and then it will reset the skill cooldown. And the skill also lets you basic attack 5 after using it. This is really good, especially for QuickSwap teams. Then we have her life skill, which is gonna be for the cafe. She increases the dish prices for every 2 dessert tags you have. She's the second best character for the cafe, so if you wanna mid-max your cafe, you definitely wanna get Lacrimosa. Then we have her other life skill, which is for heist, which increases funds and ping for coins gained. So if you wanna mid-max heist, get that one, but I do not recommend it. Then we have her gear. We're gonna want the Diabolus set, as it's the only chaos set for the game currently. For her stats, we're gonna want either crit rate or chaos damage for main stats. Crit rate if you are C0 and chaos damage if you're C3+. For substats, you're gonna want double crit rate, attack percentage and damage percentage. You can swap out attack percentage with cycle intensity if you want, or if you don't have an attack percentage one. Then we have her weapons. Of course, her signature weapon is gonna be the best weapon for her. It adds attack and crit rate substats. It also has a passive that increases crit damage whenever her Nightmare debuff is on the target, and it extends break duration by 3 seconds. The other option is the Daffodil weapon, which is only around 17% worse than Lacrimosa weapon, so her signature is definitely not a must-have. There is no other weapons that's really worth it. Let's get into her awakenings. The first one is just gonna increase your Nightmare damage. The second one is gonna just increase your damage still after you swap into her. The third one is gonna, whenever you do your 5th attack, it's gonna do extra damage based on Nightmare stacks and explode those Nightmare stacks. The 4th one just extends Nightmare from 3 seconds to 6. The 5th one does damage, max HP damage based on Nightmare stacks. every second. This one is probably the best one. Then we have the 6th one, which lets you insta cycle whenever you use her anomaly skill, which is also very good. So the recommended, I would say, is going to be C5, C1, C3, C4, C2 and C6. If you get 1 copy of her, I recommend selecting C5. If you get 2 copies of her, I recommend selecting C3 and C4. If you get 3 copies of her, I recommend selecting C5, C3 and C4. Then we have her resonance effect. The first one is just gonna increase your levels by 1, and the next one ignores 20% defense. Let's get into the team comps. First we have the normal Scorch free-to-play team comp, which is gonna be Lacrimosa, Zekeri, Hanel and Adler. This is the base team comp that everybody should be running if you have no other options. It is also arguably the highest damage team comp that doesn't suffer from anything and is a very straightforward and easy rotation. Then we have the Hotari version instead of Adler. It is more damage, although if you are using like a Blossom comp or something else on the first stage, you're definitely gonna lose damage overall on the 2 stages combined. But if you're only using Lacrimosa team comp, then this is a bit more damage. Then we have the 2 QuickSwap comps, one with Daffodil and one with Baishang. These are very sweaty rotations, so I don't recommend them unless you absolutely want to. The damage increase is also minimal compared to the easier rotations, so it's purely if you just want to sweat. These team comps are not needed for endgame. If you do want to play these team comps for the Daffodil one specifically, Lacrimosa always Esper cycle with Zekeri and Daffodil Esper cycle with Hanel. You do never Esper cycle with anybody else on the team. You will never go from Daffodil into Zekeri. And the same goes for Baishang, although Baishang can Esper cycle with Hanel. Then we have the Scorched Blossom team. It's just extra damage if you are not using Hotari somewhere else and you want a bit of extra damage. Maybe you have Hanel on your first team, but there's a Scorched and Blossom team which can be the highest DPS team, but it also suffers a bit from taking characters from your first stage team. Then we have the Scorched Survival, which has less damage than the other teams, but you can survive quite a bit easier. So if you struggle with surviving, that's definitely a team comp you can use. Let's get into the rotations. We're going to have 2 rotations. One of them is gonna be the melee rotation and the other one is gonna be the range rotations. These are the basic Lacrimosa rotations, not the team rotations. So if you wanna slot in Lacrimosa in any future teams or in team comps I haven't mentioned here, you can just use these rotations to slot it in. So first you wanna use your skill, then your ult, then basic attack 5 times, then use your skill, basic attack 5, basic attack 5 times, use your skill and then swap out. That's gonna be your basic melee rotation whenever you swap into Lacrimosa. For the ranged one, it's a little bit different, where you want to start with skill, ulti and then basic attack 4 times, then dodge cancel, basic attack 5, use skill, basic attack 5 and dodge cancel it. Then you want to use 4 basic attack, dodge cancel in case you use basic attack 5, otherwise you can just use skill and then swap her out. Let's get into the actual team rotations. For the ranged team rotation, which is gonna be what you use for C0, as it has more DPS than the melee one at C0. First you're gonna start with Zekeri ult, then you're gonna swap into Lacrimosa, do her anomaly skill, then you're gonna swap to Hanel, then Adler, then back to Lacrimosa, use her ult, then basic attack 4 times, then you're gonna dodge cancel the 5th basic attack, use her skill, basic attack 5 and dodge cancel it. Then you're gonna use 4 basic attack, dodge cancel, and then use a skill, and then you're gonna swap out to Zekeri, then Hanel, then Adler, and then Lacrimosa in that order. Then we have the melee team rotation. This is really only for C3+. It can also be used for C2 if you want, but C3+ is definitely where it shines. First, you're gonna start on Sakiri again with her ult, then use Lacrimosa skill, then you're gonna use her Nell, Adler, then Lacrimosa ult, then you're gonna do 5 basic attacks, then you're gonna use skill, basic attack 5, then 5 basic attacks, then you wanna use anomaly skill, swap to Sakiri, then Hanel, then Adler, and then back to Lacrimosa, and repeat. Then we have the QuickSwap Rotation. You can pretend Adler is Daffodil or Baishang here. First you wanna start with Sakiri ult, then you wanna do Lacrimosa skill, then swap to Hanel, then to Adler, and then use Lacrimosa ult, basic attack 5 times, then swap to Daffodil, then swap back to Lacrimosa, use skill, basic attack 5, then swap to Daffodil, and back to Lacrimosa, basic attack 5 times, use skill, and then swap out. That is gonna be your team rotation. It is important that on the basic attack 5, that your animation cancel it when you swap. It is a very tight timing, but your basic attack 5 always have a long animation regardless of if it's ranged or the melee version. They both have a long animation, so you want to swap during that animation, do your rotation on the other character, and then swap back in when the basic attack 5 has ended, and then you always swap on the long animation of basic attack 5 for the most damage. Then we have the gifts. First off, we have the bunny box at 400 points, which is gonna be the whale option if you just wanna level her as fast as possible. Then we have the slightly more budget option at 200 points, which is gonna be chill out. And then for the free to play budget option, if you wanna save the most funds possible but level the slowest, you have tomato 100 at 100 points. That's gonna be your gifts. Then we have the conclusion. Do I think Lacrimosa is worth pulling? Absolutely, if you need a main DPS. She's a very strong main DPS right now, so I would definitely pull her. I don't think she has the best future potential, but if you do wanna pull an extra copy of her for the C6 to Esper cycle, you can use her as a sub DPS / a cycle bot in the future with cycle intensity like you do with the main character currently. That will future proof it quite a bit. The signature has a little bit of future proofing in that it extends the break duration by 3 seconds, but otherwise than that it's just a stat stick. So I think she's worth pulling, but if you love her enough to use her even when she gets power crept, then you should definitely get at least 1 copy of her. And if you want to do the most damage on her, I suggest getting 3 copies of her and stopping at 3 copies. I do not recommend C6 in her unless you absolutely want to, but C3 is a really good stopping point. For the last part of the video, I'm gonna show you the comparison between the melee and the ranged version at C0, so you can see which one is actually doing more DPS. The ranged one is gonna be around 20 seconds faster than the melee version, which is why I recommend the ranged version for C0 and the melee version for C3 once you get the Nightmare Awakenings. That's gonna be everything for this video. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.